Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
So the Taliban have announced they're launching a spring offensive, claiming it's already winning back increasing areas of Afghanistan. Certainly there is no sign of the war there coming to an end anytime soon. There were more civilians killed or injured in the country last year than ever before, yet the EU is seeking to repatriate at least 80,000 refugees, claiming they're simply economic migrants. Our Asia correspondent Jonathan Miller joins us now live from the capital, Kabul. Jonathan.
The snow, John, is now melting on the mountains, and pretty soon the Taliban will be able to make it through those high mountain passes. Today, as you say, they launched their spring offensive. They called it Operation Omari, after Mullah Omar, their late founder and leader. And they promised more large-scale attacks, more suicide bombs, rather like the ones they did yesterday, which killed 12 military recruits and 2 Ministry of Education workers, or the rocket attacks on central Kabul just 3 nights ago after John Kerry left. Most of the Taliban attacks in Afghanistan target civilians, and what the Americans just yesterday called extreme instability is driving ever more Afghans from their homes, many towards Europe. But Europe, which appears to think that the war here is over, is sending more and more Afghans back here and plans to send thousands in the next few months. Is it safe to send Afghans back to this place, all these would-be and failed asylum seekers? Well, here is my report, and be warned, there are very distressing images right from the start.
This war is not over. For Bibi, who's 10, life as she knew it is over though. While playing outside her house with her brother and sister last week, she stepped on the pressure plate of an improvised bomb, which blew off her hands. There was something lying on the ground, and we didn't know what it was. When we got close, it exploded, she told me. Villagers clubbed together to pay for a taxi to Kabul, a 7-hour trip. My brother and sister lost hands and legs too, she said. They're in a hospital in our hometown. The children's ward of Kabul's emergency hospital echoes with howls of distress.
This is Felisa.
Yes.
And she's 9?
9 years old.
And what happened to her?
They told to us that was one suicide with a motorcycle that entered in the area of the bazaar.
Yeah.
And a lot of people was killed, more or less 15 people.
Shrapnel ruptured Felisa's kidney. IED, suicide bomb, and in the next bed, Gulsum. She's 1.5 and was hit by a bullet. Surgeons amputated the baby's right arm. In Afghanistan, there was no mission accomplished. We've left, and it's got worse. Last year, more civilians were killed or wounded than in any year on record, and the numbers are inexorably rising. Surgeons at emergency hospital average 60 operations each a week. It's hardly surprising Afghans want out.
The youth in Afghanistan is thinking to leave because of war, but also because of no opportunities at all. People are escaping because they don't have a chance of running a proper life. And anytime they go out in some area in Afghanistan, they don't know if they will come back.
The Afghan economy is collapsing. On Kabul's street corners, men gather, desperate for day work. There are no jobs because of the war. It's a particularly vicious circle.
raise your hand if you have thought about leaving this country, if you would go. Okay, look, that says that all of these people, given the chance, would leave Afghanistan. There are no jobs, and no wonder Afghans are voting with their feet. Violent crime is virulent. People are stabbed in the street for cash, shot for their cars, kidnapped for ransom. The Afghan president said recently that he had no sympathy with his unpatriotic fellow countrymen who fled. And the Facebook generation of young Afghans were absolutely outraged by this, pointing out that he and half his government, MPs and provincial governors, all had comfortable feathered nests and bolt holes somewhere safe, secure abroad. Many in Europe, some in the UK.
Now that the Taliban have announced the launch of their spring offensive, expect more of this. The EU is bracing for a fresh surge of Afghans, who made up a quarter of the 1 million people who sought refuge in Europe last year. But because the EU's been focused on Syrians, whose applications are fast-tracked, Afghans have washed up like the flotsam and jetsam in a river of refugees, most just classed as migrants. Austria has launched a poster campaign here aimed at persuading Afghans to think twice about leaving. So has Germany, which is seeking to dispel the myth of guaranteed jobs and generous handouts in Europe. But Germany's where Ahmed went. On the run from the Taliban who'd taken over his house, he left his wife and children in the care of her father and set out on the long march to Munich.
During this operation, I got wounded. We were trying to clear all the area from the Taliban.
He'd been an interpreter with US Special Forces and has 160 letters of commendation. He'd twice been shot in the line of duty, but still couldn't get a US visa.
I worked with the US Army for a long time. Yeah. And I did my best. But at the end, when my life and my family life was in danger, just they left me alone.
They didn't want anything to do with you, you mean?
No.
Yeah. On reaching Bulgaria, Ahmed was arrested as a terrorist suspect and jailed for 3 weeks, where he was badly beaten. He still bears the scars. Last September, he entered Croatia at exactly the time we were reporting there. He caught a train up to Austria and from there walked into Germany, arriving 2 months after leaving Kabul. Why, after all that huge journey and the terrible things that happened to you on the way, am I talking to you here again, back in Afghanistan? What happened?
When I went to Germany, there was a woman. She was the sociologist. She told me, "Hey, Ahmed, there's no chance for Afghans to stay here. Maybe you will stay here for 5 or 7 years, but you will not be able to get your citizenship. You will not be able to take your family here." I told him my life is in danger, my family life is in danger. I have proof, I have documents. I show it to him, and I show him all my pictures that I was
all
here.
Those letters?
All letters, yeah. But she said, "Sorry, Ahmed, the only thing that I can tell you right now is that it's no chance for Afghans to stay in Germany or get their citizenship."
Depressed and missing his family, Ahmed gave up and came back, his life savings gone. The night he got home, the Taliban tried to kill him again.
My concern is about my kids, my family, not about me. I think I'm a soldier. Maybe one day I will die. I don't care. But just for my little kids, I want them to live in a safe place.
EU countries intend to deport 80,000 Afghans because they say Kabul city is safe. Many in the government here oppose this. They say it's not safe and that this city couldn't cope with the influx. There are now moves in Europe to force their hand by threatening to cut much-needed aid unless Afghanistan stops people leaving and accepts returnees. At this stage in our report, we had intended to bring you a response from senior European diplomats to the question as to whether it was safe to return would-be and failed Afghan asylum seekers to this country. The British ambassador declined repeated requests for an interview. The German ambassador agreed, but was then instructed by the German Foreign Ministry in Berlin
not to talk to us. This has become a volatile issue in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan's Minister for Refugees does not like veiled threats from the EU.
The Afghan government recognizes that EU countries have helped Afghanistan a lot, and we stand in solidarity with Europe in this time of crisis. But we expect the EU to understand that there is a war going on here. Women and children are being killed. Islamic State is trying to gain a foothold, which is a grave danger for the whole world. People are fleeing because of all this. They have no choice but to leave.
This family fled the country 20 years ago. They came back to Afghanistan in 2014, full of hope. Today they live in squalor next to a roundabout. One Afghan man told me no one has any hope left in their hearts. Hope has turned to fear once again.
Well, we did ask for a minister from the Ministry of Defence, Foreign Office and the Home Office. No one was available. But the Ministry of Defence did tell us that we can be proud of what we've done in Afghanistan, and the Home Office told us that every case is carefully considered on merit, and where people have a genuine need for protection, they will be granted refuge.